welcome to Yes You Can Paint. Today we're here at the Cape Otway Lighthouse, which is situated on the Great Ocean Road. Rod will be painting the lighthouse and I'll be showing you around, and I've got some amazing, interesting facts for you later on in the show.
Well, g'day folks, welcome to another edition of Yes You Can Paint. Rod Moore from Moore Art School with you again, and as you can see, Sue and I had a great time down at the Cape Otway Lighthouse down the Great Ocean Road. A beautiful spot, and if you're ever looking for a great place to go on a bit of a holiday with the family, head down there. So what we're going to do is a little a painting today of the lighthouse, and this is a view from up near the old World War II bunker, which is up on the hill there. I printed out a photo of it here, and it's a great little view of the lighthouse from up high, looking down. You can see the ocean in the background and so on. I thought that'd make a great little painting for us to do today. So let's just run through our palette and have a look at the colours we're going to use. We've got ultramarine blue, our alizarin crimson, cadmium red, cadmium yellow, our yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and of course our titanium white, a good helping of that. So the way I'm going to start out, as always, is getting the drawing of our big shapes in, and then we'll block in those shapes, and then we'll do the refinement and everything towards the end. Just going to start off with a little flat brush here. Just for our drawing, I'll just swish that around in some thinner. And we'll pull out some ultramarine blue and some alizarin crimson, and we'll mix up a nice runny mix of those two. And we'll use this now just to get our drawing in. Now when you do your drawing, you just really want to get in the placement of your big shapes. That's really all we're about. So I'm going to use my photo reference here for this. Make sure you've got your, the mix nice and loose. And let me have a look here. Probably around about there. And it's going to run out. Sort of drops away down towards the ocean there, like so. This area here is sort of clear, and then we've got the base of the lighthouse. It sits around about, let's make it around about there and there, and the lighthouse is going to go up to around about there, and we'll have the roof of or the top of the lighthouse there. Now we had a good look through the lighthouse. They gave us a bit of a tour there, and we'll show you that a bit later in the show. Sue had a good look around and interviewed the lighthouse keeper, so a bit of history there, as you can probably well imagine. Okay, so we get that in the right placement, which means that the horizon line is going to run around about there. And that was pretty simple, we're getting that part in. Let's just bring this hill up just behind the lighthouse. So we're going to make it go up to about there and then drop away. Maybe we don't want it to drop away quite so steep, about there like so. That part's pretty simple, and if you're watching this at home, you can do that part with no problem at all. Just need to have a go at it really. Okay. Well, as you can see, folks, I've done our drawing in quite loose, quite roughly. There's no detail there. It's just about getting those big shapes placed into the painting. Make sure our composition's looking right. Make sure our horizon line's sitting right. You don't want that horizon line to be up too high near the top of the lighthouse, and you don't want it too low, obviously, as well, because of the angle that we're looking at in this particular view of the lighthouse. So just get the big shapes in. Notice I'll move that line up a little, just adjusting things as we go. Now, our next step is we want to get in our sky and our water mass, right? We're just going to block in those colours. The sky's got to be lighter in value than what the water is going to be. So I'm just going to take my an old pastry brush, actually. Get these from any kitchen supplies store, or alternatively you could use a 1-inch bristle brush, which you can get from a hardware store or any good art supplies store. Just loosen that up into some thinner, and I'll grab some of the ultramarine blue there, and we'll get some titanium white. Now the sky needs to be a nice light blue. Okay, that gives us a good starting mix, I think. Let's just have a look at that. Yeah, it's nice and light in value, so it'll contrast nicely against the water. Just run that in. You don't want that line to be too sharp, the horizon line, otherwise it'll pull the eye to it. So if you keep the edge where the water meets the horizon, if you keep it a bit undefined, right? Notice how I'm blending it back up into that sky colour there. By keeping it a little bit undefined, it doesn't draw the eye to it, because the horizon line is not our centre of interest. It's not what we want the eye to be drawn to. It's obviously the lighthouse. We want that to pop out. Okay. Now, at around about this point to around about here, we're going to start getting that a bit greener. So we go back with our ultramarine blue and we introduce more alizarin crimson, and we want to keep it on the blue side of green. But if you ever get in the Great Ocean Road, you'll notice that there's a lot of green water closer to the coast. Didn't mix up enough paint there, so I'll come back and I'll mix some more. This time I'll get just a little pinhead of alizarin crimson in there. A little bit more of the titanium white, a bit of thinner in there. Okay. In there like so. Start to put this in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to warm up part of it as well. I don't want just this one flat colour in here, but let's just get the hillside in here, and we want this to be quite dark at that point. I'll go a little bit more burnt sienna, just where where it overlaps the water there. We want there to be quite a good distinction between the water below and this cliff face. Okay. Now you don't want pure white, so what I'll do is I'll get some of this titanium white here, and just a little tiny little hint of probably the yellow ochre actually. So we'll just tint that, and I've still got a bit of blue in the brush, so we're going to get a little bit of an interesting mix there. But just pure white, we want to save that for our highlights. So for the moment we just want to get a tint, and a warm tint. That's why I'm going for the yellow ochre. Okay, and we'll run that down this side here. Whoop. Just taking your time with the brush. Okay, now I'm ready to sort of run a line down between those two. So mix up a bit more of this white, like so. So you can see how much paint I've got on the brush there. What I'm going to do now is just come to that point where the two meet, and I'm just going to start working back and forward. See that? Blending that in. So I don't pick up any more paint. Okay. Just blend that across. And what we're trying to do obviously is create a sense of this lighthouse structure having some form, having a roundness to it. Okay. Which we're getting there slowly with it. Well, things are progressing really well here. I've put in some of the light and shade into the lighthouse here. I think what we need to do is get a little bit of cloud movement happening into the sky here. Not a lot, because we don't have a lot of sky to work with. So for that, I'm just going to take some titanium white, thicker paint now, because we're going, we've already got wet paint up there, so we need some thicker paint. So I'll get some yellow ochre to warm up our clouds. It's just going to be sort of wispy sort of flat clouds that you might find off in the distance, like so. Don't want to put too much focus on these. We'll just pop in a little bit in there, like so.
Well, we're here in the lantern room, and then we've got Pat, the lighthouse keeper of Cape Otway Lightstation. Now, tell us about the light, Pat.
Well, this prism was built in Birmingham in England, or near Birmingham in 1888. It was put in here in 1891. It's called a Fresnel lens after the French physicist Augustin Fresnel, who altered the light. As the old days it was done by reflection, using parabolic reflectors. With this apparatus it was done by refraction. It increased the light, and it trapped the light and didn't waste any light. So therefore it was much more powerful than the old parabolic system.
Now, the passage, I understand, between the Cape Otway Lighthouse and the water is the eye of the needle. Obviously there's been a number of shipwrecks. How many have there been? Well,
yeah, a huge number of shipwrecks, but mainly around this area, from a horseshoe shape from, say, Apollo Bay around the Cape to Moonlight Head. There's around about 22 shipwrecks.
Wow.
The real reason for the lighthouse being built, though, was because of the carnage that was happening on King Island. 1835, a convict ship called the Neva lost their way, if you like. Hit the western side of King Island, and about 250 female convicts, children and crew, mostly perished. That set the ball rolling in the colonies of Australia and the Admiralty in England, that they had to light up the western entrance to Bass Strait. So finally, 10 years later, after a lot of procrastination, unfortunately Australia's very worst peacetime tragedy, it still stands, when the immigrant ship, the Katariki, also struck the west side of King Island, drowning 400 immigrants, people. Wow. 400 people in that one shipwreck. Lo and behold, 3 years later, the lighthouse was here and operating, and operated ever since until 1994. Another interesting footnote is that in the 1860s, there was between 50 and 100 ships going past here a day.
Wow.
So that could put a little bit of that into context.
Absolutely, yes. So it's helped save lives.
Okay, well, let's just have a look at where we're up to here. I've put in a bit more detail work into the water here, created some more interest, put a few waves in, got this main reef running through here, and I'll add some highlight colours, just little touches here to brighten it all up as we get towards the end of the painting. And so overall, we've pretty much got everything established. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back and start working on this cliff face here with all the different types of vegetation. And to do that, I'm going to use our 1-inch brush here. Okay, this is just a bristle hair brush. You can see it's quite a thick brush, which needs to be softened up a little bit. So I'll just get that into some of our thinner. If I take some blue and some yellow ochre, I'll mix some of that up. Okay, like so. And I'm going to tap the brush into the paint, as you can see. And by doing that, it opens up the hairs of that brush a little bit. Okay, we don't want it too gluggy on that brush. And then what I'm going to do is just start to establish some foliage. Okay, now I want to get some variety in there, so I'm not going to just completely cover it all in the same tone. So let's just use this tone in places. Okay, like so. Establish a few clumps and leave some gaps where we can put in some other varieties of tone. For instance, I might come in with this cadmium yellow here, and in a couple of spots I'll go a bit different tone of that green there, okay? Or I might just come in with pure yellow, because I've already got a green on the brush. Just come in and not too much yellow, tap that back a bit. But there's going to be parts where there's going to be brighter coloured bushes and things in there, okay? So this is a good way of being able to get lots of foliage on to your painting quickly. Okay, we get into some pure yellow ochre in there now, and leaving that shadow colour to come through. See that? I'm leaving plenty of that shadow colour to come through this foliage. so that it creates that sort of effect of having some volume to it. Okay. Vary your brush strokes around a little bit. But remember, it's all going to be growing down the slope of the hill. So you can establish the angle of this hill by the direction that you run your brush strokes in. And you bring some of it up over the path there. Okay. And I'll get some white into that mix and I'll lighten some of it up and put some of that up here where it's going to be getting more direct sunlight. Well, you can see how simple that foliage is, and really, as I said, it's an approach to doing the foliage designed for beginners and people who haven't painted before. If you're an intermediate painter or an advanced painter, you probably wouldn't approach it this way, and that's okay, because what we're doing here in the show is just trying to demonstrate to beginners how to get started painting, and that's a really easy way to create a foliage-like effect. So just think about that. If you are an advanced painter, then you'd use a different approach. Now, let's go back and look at our lighthouse and get some details happening in and around the top of the lighthouse here. So I'm going to go to a little liner brush here now, and what I want to do first is just get my darks, make sure they're firmly established before we move on. So I'm just using ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson for the dark. I don't want to add in burnt sienna because that would just really make it too dark. So I think we're fine with just the ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. Okay, just... Those windows there are quite dark, but I'll add in the frame around it. Underneath there, I've already got that working quite well. There's also these windows. Oh. And the doorway there. Okay, I probably put my windows a little bit too close together. However, I don't think that matters too much. You know, a lighthouse historian might have a problem with it, but we're painting a painting here, so not taking photographs. And they're like so. Now, just above the doorway, there was an old sign saying something 1848 or something like that. What I'll do is I'll get a little touch of this red and some white. Just want to tone that back a bit. And I'll just put a little indication that there's a little plaque there. But I'm obviously not going to put the plaque in. It's a little bit on the pink side, but that's okay. Now, with some toned down white, so we've got some yellow ochre in this, which is good. Just here, these windows have got their frame, something like so. And there's a red balcony that runs around. So into our cadmium red for that. And it runs. And stupidly they talked me into going out onto the balcony. It was blowing a gale, category 3 I could have sworn. And the lighthouse keeper said, "Oh, it's a gentle sea breeze." Gentle sea breeze? You're kidding me. So I was clinging on for dear life, and of course Sue, being the daredevil that she is, loved every minute of it. I'm walking out there clinging on for dear life, hanging on to the edge of the lighthouse with the camera, thinking they don't pay me enough for this. there is white fencing posts that sort of come around there like that. Get a couple of those in. Don't overdo it with the fences, you know, just get in a few indications so that it tells the eye that there's some fencing there. Sort of typical white, painted white posts and things that you would expect to find around the coastal areas. We'll pop in a couple of people just as a finishing touch. Now when you're doing people, you know, down at the base of the lighthouse here, they're just going to be little dashes and marks. Don't get too caught up with trying to actually paint people in. What I'm going to do here is I'll just pop in, you know, little body shape like so. Maybe we've got another one there. Pop in a couple of dark ones. Pop in a couple that are a bit red. Okay, so maybe there's a couple there. Maybe we've got one lone person there, and we've got a person walking along there. Okay, just little indications is all we need for people. This is not a portrait study, obviously. And the heads are just little dashes. Okay. Maybe the odd arm or two like so. Now where people are good is if you've got light coming from that way, what you want to do with your people is just run out a bit of a shadow for them. And that helps to really give you the indication of where the sun is. Now I know they're a little bit dark, so what I might do is just lighten one or two of them. Well, I think we're pretty well done. Cape Otway Lighthouse, a great little painting to have a go at. You know, we're teaching this in our classes at the moment. People are just loving doing this particular painting. Really simple approach. Remember the 3 steps that we always teach at Moore Art School. First step is to draw in your big shapes, and you saw how simply I did that. You know, it was just a couple of marks to place our big shapes in. The second step then was I blocked in our colours and got our values right. You know, I got our sky lighter than the horizon line, and we brought it lighter as we came closer. So thinking about the values of the big shapes as we block those in. And then the third step, as you've just seen me do, is highlighting, putting details in like the people and the rail and things like that. The finishing little touches, you know, the foliage. Those sort of little touches are what bring it all together at the end. Okay, now if you're sitting at home wondering if you can paint, yes you can. You can do this painting even if you've never picked up a brush before. We have many students come to our classes and finish a painting like this for the very first painting. So if you want to find out how to paint, go to www.freepaintingvideos.com. Grab our free videos there, or go to moreartschool.com and check out what we're doing, and you'll be able to paint as well. And I look forward to seeing you next week in our next episode of Yes You Can Paint. Until then, happy painting.